Welcome again. I am Professor Thales Castro, and we are taking our only English elective, Globalization, Society, and International Politics. On this video, we're going to be covering specific the fifth and the last of the topics to be covered in our first unit of academic distribution of the discipline. In this fifth and last topic, we will be specifically focusing on IR epistemologies. In other words, international relations theories, or even, we can even say, international relations paradigms. And I'd like to say that this is a very important and strong debate, even today, amongst international relations scholars. International relations epistemologies, they represent the very foundation of the theoretical analysis that we take in understanding the global phenomena, its complexities, and its multidimensionality. I would like to say that the first generation of these debates, they are very old. They pretty much started through a bifurcation of analysis about the international arena based upon the very essence, based upon the very notion of decision-making of states. How do states behave? How do they take their decisions at the global level? That pretty much struck major political philosophers throughout the years, throughout the centuries, and that established a very solid dichotomy. And this dichotomy, this bifurcation, has been what it's called the first generation of debates. Currently, we can also associate this first generation of debates as major positivist theories of international relations. And this bifurcation lies upon the nature of power. If we consider the very essence of power-hungry strategies as the major influence in the decision-making process of states today, then we are automatically guided to what it's called the realism thought. Realists understand that power, force, military might are very important descriptive elements of these decision makers. States are rational maximization actors, and as rational maximization actors, they tend to understand power as the very essence. We have political philosophers that for centuries and centuries have understood the very essence of power as a means and as an ends of all the international political phenomena. We can start by mentioning Thucydides, the Greek philosopher that wrote the history of the Peloponnesian War. And he described that power was the very essence that struck in various forms of warfare in the city-states Greek government form. We can go to Machiavelli in 1513 when he wrote The Prince, which is a book that is very used and read today. He mentioned that power is the very essence that moves political actors. We can go into the British political philosopher of the 16th and 17th century, Thomas Hobbes, when he wrote The Leviathan. The Leviathan was the biblical monster that he used in a metaphor of his book of the 17th century to describe the undertakings of the state in a contractual form. Hobbes was the first actually of three contractualist philosophers: Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, and Jean-Jacques Rousseau. These three political philosophers understood that contractual relationships would be the founding stone of any kind of a construction of the sovereign state. But let's go back to Hobbes. Hobbes was a realist. He understood that power was necessary. He understood that a strong state would be important to consolidate peace, harmony, stability, social stability. So we would eventually surrender and give partially our personal freedom to the state, and the state in exchange would grant us social peace and stability and the maintenance of minimum human rights. This is Hobbes. They're all realists. Power, force, military might, these are key characteristics of the realism paradigm. In opposition to realism, we go into the liberal thought, which is also associated to idealism. In the idealism parameter, international law, international norms, ethical behaviors, equality, are the founding principles of all of these idealistic perspective. We commonly associate idealism to the German political philosopher Immanuel Kant, specifically when he wrote in 1795 his major book, Perpetual Peace. And he emphasized the importance that in order to maintain international peace and stability, it would be necessary the creation of supranational actors. Today, we could easily associate the Kantian dream to the United Nations, as it was founded back in 1945. So, idealism stipulates the importance of norms, of equality, of principles, of morality, not of power. This is the realism. And these two schools, they represent the first great debate of international relations, and they're based upon positivist theories. We have, in the 19th century and on the 20th century, a second generation of debates and also the third generation of debates, which were carried specifically at the end of the 20th century. And these second and third generation of debates, they brought into the spectrum of analysis of international relations items such as the environment, elements such as feminism, postmodernism, critical theory, which was established in Germany at the Frankfurt School of the 1930s. So all of these new topics, all of these new agendas, they pretty much came into the analysis in a very detailed form of the analysis of the international phenomena through theoretical principles. So, I believe that these analysis, these important notes, were able to establish very general understandings of these IR parameters, IR paradigms. I understand that it's crucial for you to read further and to keep track of all of these slides in our presentation. And you're pretty much ready to start in a couple of days our first written examination in essay format. This essay, this examination will be physically present. You need to be physically present to have this essay. And the nature of the essay will be based upon international organizations, international law, and United Nations. So, good test. I hope that you have enjoyed this first unit of academic analysis, and we're going to be presenting to you soon the last video covering the 3 last topics of our second unit of academic analysis in this fascinating discipline, which is globalization, society, and international politics.